on behalf of the Institute for Leadership and Strategic Foresight. Welcome to So You Want to Be the Chief, a podcast for leaders.
I have an extraordinary man on the show with me today. He is extraordinary, excuse me, easy for me to say, extraordinary because I brought him up. I remember him as either a tech sergeant or a master sergeant out of Cheyenne at the mountain and all that. And he was like a snot-nosed senior NCO. And I said, this guy's going to be a chief one day. And he became a chief. He is a chief, a great chief. He is Chief Master Sergeant Jacob Simmons, U.S. Space Force, but you're still a chief, even though it's Space Force, right, Chief?
That's right, Chief. I appreciate you. And I'm also still an airman as well, 28 years. So I will be an airman for life.
Is that right? Okay, cool. And by the way, just so before I forget, you still owe me lunch, man. So I just want to get that out of the way. You still owe me lunch. You know that.
I know. Yeah, you brought it up on your birthday too. I see. Flip that right on in there on your happy birthday, Chief.
Thank you.
Thank you for spending time with me on your birthday. That means the world to me. You mean the world to me. I appreciate everything you've done. Before we even get started, I just want to make sure that I tell you thank you, because my mom always told me, tell people thank you while you can.
Yes.
And I owe you a lot.
No, you don't owe me nothing, man. You've been doing great
stuff.
Okay,
that's recorded. That's recorded.
Wait. I didn't finish.
No, Chief, that was recorded.
You don't owe me nothing except Chick-fil-A. You know we got some Chick-fil-A. No, brother, I am so proud of you, man. You know, you and James Sabayas and Carmen Pogue and a bunch of y'all that have gone on to be great leaders in Space Force. And you know, I said this many years ago, 3 decades ago. Space is the place. I used to say that a lot, and now look at this. It's great. So I'm proud of you, man, and keep doing what you're doing. Now, so how long have you been in altogether, Chief?
So in May, it'll be 33 years.
33, okay.
And 1992 on May 1st.
All right. Now, and I know last year or so you were talking about possibly retiring. So Are you up at your high year of tenure and going to have to retire soon, or how does that work?
So back in 2023, I did set plans in place to retire, to have a ceremony, to go ahead and pass the baton, air power, to the next generation. And I got an opportunity. And sometimes doors open when you don't expect them to. Sometimes the timing that you set for yourself is not necessarily the timing that's going to actually be in play. And I got an opportunity to come to United States Space Command, and I couldn't pass that up. Now, I was already at 30 years, and I had to get a high year extension in order to take the position, and that has to be done by a senior leader, general officer, to allow you to stay a little bit longer. So I am on borrowed time. I am literally having the frosting of the cake, and I'm enjoying every moment that I get to spend in uniform. One more day.
Yeah. And I know what you mean, because, they say that there's a point when you wake up in the morning and you say, I'm done. And I never got there. I'm still up. People ask me, how's retirement? Well, I didn't retire. I refired. I'm doing other stuff, and hopefully for the same cause, and that's air power. So, yeah, I know what you mean, Chief. Now, where are you from originally? I don't know that I even know that.
So I grew up Army.
Oh, really?
Yep. My dad was Army. He's a retired Command Sergeant Major. May he rest in peace. And we moved around from Fort Belvoir, Virginia, to Baumholder, Germany, to Fort Bliss, El Paso, Texas, and then we really landed in Killeen, Texas, and Central Texas, then Fort Hood, now Fort Cavassier.
So you are a Cowboys fan?
I am a fan of America's team.
Oh, indeed. Cowboy, I want to hear it. I want it on tape.
And I believe that America's team has a star on its helmet, and it resides in Dallas, Texas.
All right, yeah, and this is our year. Of course, we've been saying that for about 30 years, so
it always is.
It always is, yeah. Well, and I know obviously you were an airman and you learned about Air Force stuff, and we just 5 years ago has it been, Chief, that we transitioned into space? Is that right?
5 years, December 2019.
Okay. There's not of a difference, is there? I mean, a chief in Space Force is pretty much the same as a chief in the Air Force. Would you agree?
Uh, so
I
so
mean,
the
maybe
thing,
not technically, the
yeah,
technical part, that's different, but the
yeah,
leadership part in particular, the character part, I think is still the same.
yeah, 100%. And it's the same also as a command sergeant major in the Army, and the same
Okay.
as a master chief petty officer in the Navy, same as a master gunnery sergeant or a sergeant major in the Marine Corps.
Yeah.
So just making sure that even though the Space Force got its legs from the Air Force, it really got its core from all of the services. And so when you look at a senior enlisted leader in the Space Force, at least today, until we have organically grown our own senior master sergeants and chief master sergeants, you're going to see all of those other services in our senior enlisted leaders.
Yeah, yeah, and in the Air Force we have the code, the Airman's Creed, where it says, "I will never leave an airman behind." But I've said for years, for decades, Chief, I will never leave an American behind. It don't matter what it's always about us fighting them, and that's us, Space Force, us, Army, us. It all on our battle uniform. It always says us. And I think leadership in any force, in any of the services, at that level is pretty much the same. One of the things that you just mentioned that I'd like you to talk about a little bit. I don't know if you were prepared for this, but you said that you were about to get out, but you decided to stay in for the force. The force needed you. Now, I did 17 assignments in 31 years on active duty, and when I got the call, I didn't argue much. I said, "Yes, sir. Where do I go? When do I meet you?" And that's the way it was. And I'm not sure that the new youngsters are that way, Chief. A lot of times I hear them trying to negotiate where they're going to go. And because my wife did this, and of course the family is always critical. But Deb and the girls, they packed up. I'd call them up, and the cue was, "Are you all sitting down? Where are we going, Dad?" We were going somewhere. And I appreciate, Chief, that you were willing to stay longer for the force. Is that still happening? Is that something that we should or do teach our senior enlisted people?
Yeah, it absolutely is still happening. There is still commitment. There is still that, when you join the military, when I joined the military, it was a course of action. It was one of the many things that I had to try to decide between what am I going to do with my life coming out of high school and out of the early workforce. What do I want to do? So it was a course of action that I wasn't sure where it would lead to. I re-enlisted because I wanted it to be a career. It went from being a choice and a course of action to being a career, and all the things that come with the profession of arms. And then as a senior enlisted leader, there was a transition where this just became my calling. This is what I am meant to do, what I feel that I've been best built to do, to contribute to society in the best way that I can. And Chief, that at this point we have options. We have other things that we could do. It's about what are we meant to do? What's the things that give us meaning, value, and purpose? My MVP, right? These are the things that when I go home and look in the mirror, I can say my time was well spent today. And sure, there's other things I could do with it, but this is what I believe I've been built to do with it. I don't know how long that'll last. And when I had my papers ready for retirement, I believed that it was time for someone else to be able to get the opportunity that I was sitting in, and that they would have the legs to carry them forward where there weren't any other doors opening for me at the time. But Chief, as soon as the door opened and said, "Oh, but wait a minute, we've got one more thing, or we've got something else for you," I was thankful, because just like you, I was not desiring to go. No one had said, or nothing inside me said, it's the time. And where people say when it's time, I did not know that. It was not what I wanted to do. It's what I felt it was right to do for the service and for the force. But given the opportunity, I'll stay another 10. I'll stay another 15, so long as this is where I believe I'm built to be.
Yeah.
And I believe, to your question, Chief,
Yes.
that other senior NCOs feel the same, and other senior officers feel the same. They have opportunities to go do other things, and they choose to answer the call, to stay and to continue to serve. And I also believe, Chief, that our brand new airmen, soldiers, sailors, Marines and our Guardians and our Coast Guard Sentinels, they all have options. We don't bring in people because it's all they can do. We bring in people because they choose to do this above other things. And so throughout their career, they're going to have to weigh and balance the options that are given to them in their life to do other things. Sometimes it's going to bring more money. Sometimes it's going to bring more stability. And sometimes they're going to say, you know what, I just can't leave the caliber of people that I'm surrounded with, and I just want to stay. But they're going to have options. And it's part of our job as senior leaders, I believe, to create an environment that competes for them rather than assume that they have nowhere else to go, because it's just not the case.
Yeah. And I think for all of us, Chief, it clicks somewhere along the way. You know, believe it or not, I don't know that I've ever shared this with you, but I was ready to get out at 3 years. I was out, man, because you know the Air Force expected me to cut my hair. You know that? You know, I mean, what? No, man, I'm a musician. I don't have short hair. I gotta have long, all that stuff. But they offered me $7,500 as a bonus, a reenlistment bonus, and another stripe, a staff sergeant, and that was a 3 years, so that was pretty good, good money. But you know what happened at that time, and I can see this happening. This was in the Philippines at Clark Air Base. I'm walking down the street, all the trees and everything. I can see it, and talking to my wife, and it hit me. These people that I serve with, that I hang out with, are willing to die for me, man. You know, there's no other profession anywhere. Well, maybe firefighters, you know, first responders, CDC. I'll mostly talk about that. The Child Development Center people. But it hit me, man. Just, I mean, no kidding. It just hit me. The creator said, think about this. These guys will die for you. And then when it did, here I am. I served 50 altogether. Yeah, it's still, and it's still, you know, I'm still hanging with y'all. It's still the people. You know, it really is these people that are way above anybody else that are willing to die for someone they don't even know. But I'll do it. So, yeah, it'll hit you. Now, going back to the chief thing, Chief, what makes a good chief? In your experience.
Um, well, if you're named Bob Vasquez, that don't hurt.
Thank you.
I think that I think there's three things that I would really encourage all leaders, right? Because chiefs are just a position of leadership. It's not leadership, right? Leadership is at every level, at every echelon. But the chief stripe gives us some access and gives us some roles and responsibilities that are different from other grades, officer, enlisted, or civilian. So I think if we're really looking at what makes a good leader, I think the first thing is you have to be present. You have to be there. You can't lead from the office, right, through emails all the time. You have to be present in especially the problems, right? Because leading is only required when change has to happen. Nobody needs a leader when we want to stand still. When we want status quo, we do not need leadership. We need obedience and followership. But when you want to actually move and you actually want to change, or you want to evolve, or you want to innovate, you have to have leadership because it's got to take you somewhere. So I believe a leader has to be present in that change, has to be present in that problem. Along with being present, I think you have to be a presence. You have to be felt there, right? That means you have to contribute, not just take in and consume. You got to contribute to what's going on. So being a presence, I believe, is baseline for being a leader. And then if you're going to serve in this uniform as a leader, you have to represent, right? You have to be a representative of what it is that we're called to do. So that means that you have to be an epitome of the standards. That means that you have to be competent in what it is that the mission is calling for. You can't be the dead weight, right? You can't walk into the room and carry the stripes or carry what's on your shoulders if you're a senior officer and not be able to be competent in what the position calls you to do. There's an expectation out there that you're going to represent the command, and you're going to represent the mission, and you're going to represent the nation. And that's a 24-hour-a-day thing. So I believe you got to be present. You have to be a presence where you're there, and you have to represent in order to be a good leader. And I think that helps in becoming a good chief.
And with competence, Chief, would you agree, and I know you will because we've had these conversations before, competence isn't stagnant. You know, you got to be a lifelong learner, whether you like it or not anymore. You don't even have to be in the military. I mean, wherever you go, you better keep learning about, especially technology, you know, devices, all that stuff that's happening all over the world, you know, and especially, particularly in space. You know, I mentioned before we started that I had lunch with my lieutenant, Naya Martinez. Naya, props to you. Wonderful. I knew her before she was born. That's how long I've known her. But anyway, as I'm hanging out, and we had lunch at the DFAC in Schriever, I think that's what you call it, right? We call it a chow hall, Chief. That's old, you know, old school. But anyway, I'm looking around at all these youngsters and thinking, man, these guys are amazing. These are geniuses, man. Every one of them. Now they don't know that, or they don't see it as that. They're walking around like you know, like you and I did, probably. Well, like I did, because I'm a little bit older than than you are. But they don't see themselves as huge and as powerful as they are. They are. They're all each shining stars, Chief. And you know, I've called you and everyone shining stars forever. They really, no kidding, are. And I think one of the things that I'm thinking as I'm watching them is, I hope that y'all, I'll call y'all, you people, let them go. Because you know, I remember you when I first met you, man. You were like, Coach, let me play, man, let me play, and that's okay. That's what we want. That you know, that look that those youngsters have. Let me go, Coach. Let me go play, because they're amazing, man. I know they've forgotten more than I'll ever know.
Yeah, I'll tell you, they are a higher caliber of talent, and they're special. And so, in all the good ways, you're right. We don't know everything. You wrote a book that says you don't know everything, right? And I get around them and just have my ears open and my eyes open, because not only do they see the mission in a different way, in a future way, they see it in the way we need them to see it. We were brought up. My generation of senior enlisted leaders were brought up in the global war on terror, right? We really started to cut our teeth after 9/11. And we spent the next 15, 16, 18 years really focused on, countering VEO, countering those violent extremists, getting after cowards living in caves, right? That we knew that we could, as soon as we found you, we got you. Right? And there was no fight left in you. The fight for this next generation of military warfighter is so different. And we need them to be so different in the ways that they are bringing the intuition, and they're bringing intellect. When they're asking why, it's because they want to understand how to be better at their trade craft. And it's impressive to see. You mentioned that Space Force has only been around, and Space Command has only been around for 5 years, right? Back in 2019. A lot has happened and changed in that 5 years. And these new military warfighters have been birthed in this new change. They've been birthed in the change of COVID. They've been birthed in the change of Russia, Ukraine. They've been birthed in the change of Gaza. They've been birthed in the change of hypersonic technology. They've been birthed in the change of direct descent, anti-satellite weapons, and on-orbit warfare, and AI, and quantum sciences. They have been birthed into a new, what we all call great power competition. And they will be, if we do the math, those that are graduating basic training today or graduating their academy today, they're going to be the senior enlisted leaders and senior officers in 24, 25 years when our opponent, our existential opponent, turns 100, as their doctrine says in 2049. They're going to be in positions of command. They're going to be in positions of senior enlisted leadership when we need them the most. So when we think about it, we may be witnessing right now what could be the next greatest generation.
And I think, Chief, especially as senior leaders now, as chiefs in particular, we need to take them under our wing and teach them. We can't teach them the future because we don't really know what it is. We have expectations of it, but we really don't know what's going to happen. But we can teach them the foundations. Coming into to Schriever, I think, yeah, it's Schriever. What are the 4 C's? Character, commitment, connection,
courage, commitment.
Okay. And in the Air Force, integrity, service, and excellence, right? And that I spent 19 plus years at the Academy trying to teach your son. By the way, I hope he's doing well. And a bunch, captain. Oh my gosh.
I know.
One of us is getting old, Chief, and it ain't me. But and I invested those years in trying to teach them the foundation, the most important stuff, I think. If you have that core, the things that back in the day, my Southern friends used to say, Mom and them wisdom. Mom and them would tell you what you needed to do, and you better do it or you're going to pay the price. And I'm not sure that we have that very much anymore. But I think it's incumbent upon us who are moving on. And with all due respect, Chief, I hope it's not soon for you, but it'll be time for you soon enough, and pass it on to somebody else. But as we do that, we need to give them that foundation. I got it, man. I talked to some new chiefs, some young leaders, and sometimes they say, "Man, I don't really know how to lead. I've got this. What do they call it? Imposter syndrome." I have no idea what that means. I have no kidding. I cannot wrap my mind around it, because when I put on chief, I already knew how to be chief. I had been trained, and that was in Maxwell, the mecca of senior NCOs, and all those chiefs took me under their wing, and they made me a chief, whether I liked it or not. So I was ready. So I hope that you agree. We leaders now need to help them prepare for when they're in our shoes, when they're sitting in that chair.
Yeah, I think that when they get their next stripe or they get their next officer promotion, they anticipate the opportunity. And I think that it's those around them that make them feel like, yeah, not yet. I know you've got that stripe, but not yet. Hey, you're new at this. Let me show you the ropes. I mean, I thought you just gave me the ropes, and you just gave me the rope, and now you want to tell me, let me show them to you. I don't think that they are promoted into imposter syndrome. I think that we push that on them. And then they buy into what we give them, which is a lack of empowerment at times. And that is something we just can't move forward into great power competition in an effective way if we do not give them mission command. You'll hear many of our senior leaders of all types talking about mission command. And that's not blind empowerment. That's certainly not just giving somebody something they're not prepared to do. But it does involve understanding that the people that we have in our echelons, in our formations, they know how to speak truth. And when we say truth to power, it's not just trying to tell the commander what to do, but to tell the commander what their options are to do. It's speaking that truth, that knowledge, that understanding, that experience, that expertise, that the exposures you've had over your career, that we've promoted you into that responsibility, not because it's, as we've always said, your potential to serve in the higher grade. No, we've promoted you because you've shown us you are ready for that higher grade. And we now need you to do it, and we need to put you in those positions. We don't need you to prove that you can be a chief when we give you the stripe. We need to let you be a chief because we've given you that stripe. So that truth to power is important, but you got to be able to have the competence and the knowledge and the expertise. Those things are things that take time and take investment. The second piece, Chief, is once we know that they've got truth, we have to trust them. We have got to trust and empower at that point that they had truth, knowledge, expertise, give them the work at their echelon to do so that we can free up the next echelon above to do only what they can do. We have to trust them to do those things. And then once we've trusted them, we look back at them and say, now, guess what? The Navy calls it tackle mode. Take charge and move out. It's yours, right? I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to look over your shoulder. You've told me the truth. I trust you with it. It's yours. I need you to go. And that evaporates imposter syndrome. When one of those three things break down, I think that feeds the imposter syndrome. Am I really good enough? Do you trust me? Do I know what I need to know? Will you let me run with it? Do I have the rope, or are you going to hold on to the rope?
Yeah. And like we said a while ago, they got it. They know it. It's just a
It.
matter of, and I'll always argue that experience is probably the most important thing we can have. But still, if you don't let someone do it, they'll not have the experience. They may have the knowledge, but until they do it, because it's all different. When you get right, and I'm a musician, getting in front of the band and leading them is different than talking and learning about how to lead them. It's just a totally different thing. So, and you've mentioned a few times, Chief, that not only senior enlisted folks, but senior officers, there again, you'd be surprised how many times I've had to say this to particularly young lieutenants, there is no competition. There is no competition. We have different functions, but we have the same value. We all go together. We all get it done. And, if we need blood from each other, we give each other blood. Some of it is not blue and some of it is red. It's all red. So I appreciate that you have that concern, that it is also we got to take those officers under our wing and help them become great officers.
And our civilians, right? So
yes, indeed.
Look at our Space Force, and we can look at the other services as well, but specifically the Space Force, it's half civilian.
Yeah.
At its full end strength, half of it is our civilians that provide that continuity, that provide that stay in place expertise, that longevity, and that development is crucial in today's contemporary 21st century fight. You have to have an investment in our civilians. You have to have an investment in our officers. You have to have an investment in our enlisted. You have to have that close-knit tie to our contract force, our industry partners, our academia partners, our international allies and partners, our joint forces. All of that today, nobody can operate in a silo. And the other piece that gets rid of that imposter syndrome is realizing that we're not expecting anybody to do anything on their own all by themselves. They should be leaning and leveraging on other people. They should be finding other people to partner and team with to get to the right solution. They should never feel that they have the only good idea or that they have the right answer all in themselves.
And we can't forget the families, Chief.
100.
We are not who we are without our families. And I've mentioned to you before that my daughter's been doing the CDC, the child development. I'm not sure. I think there's a different term anymore. But she's been doing that for 25 years. And she's great at it. But those little youngsters, man, it's like I used to stand on the terrazzo and watch your son, Cadet Simmons, marching to Chow. I did that particularly yesterday with Tessa's little ones, 3-year-olds, and they're bright, man. They're excited, and you know what? The best thing about it is they hugged me, man. They all hugged me, and I'm thinking, this is why I do what I do. This is why I did what I did. This is why we do what we do for the families. So let's give them big props, and the people who take care of them, and those would be the caregivers, I guess, the CDs. I'm not sure what the term is for those people.
Yeah. We have to look at this next generation and be cheerleaders, just like you were for all those years at USAF. We got to be cheerleaders, and thinking about what they're going to get a chance to do and see. We really are looking, when we see them, we are looking into the future. They are going to be the ones that within the next 10 years have humanity back on the moon. They're the ones that are going to, my granddaughter's 3 years old. Chief, she's going to see the year 2100.
Wow.
She'll be alive to see the
Wow.
year 2100. So the things that we saw in the 20th century, all the change, all the advancement, all the craziness at times, they're going to see the next 75 years of this experience on Earth and beyond, right? On the moon, on Mars. And it's all going to be on their shoulders.
Yeah.
It's all going to be with their hands. And we've got to cheer them on.
Yeah, we do. We do. And you know, this guy will.
Yes, sir.
It's all about air power. Are you in? All in. God bless you, brother. Thank you so much for being on the show. Thank you for what you do and for who you are. Like I said at the beginning, I am so proud of you. When I hear, hey, Chief Simmons did this great thing, I go like this because that's you're part of me. You know, we're brothers and we'll always be brothers.
Yes, sir.
And brothers take each other to lunch.
Yes, sir. Happy birthday.
Hey, thank you. God bless you, man.
Bless you, Chief.